I recently watched a video on TED Talks, home of the mantra ideas worth spreading. TEDx are a non-profit organisation that wants to spark conversation, according to their own bio. What TED apparently mean when they say spark conversation is go and have a conversation over there and keep it the fuck away from us, because you might damage our echo chamber with your radical thoughts of not all women that say they've been raped have actually been raped. I say that because whilst TED say they want to spark a conversation, on the very video in which I'm about to tear a new one, they've disabled the fucking comments section. So you want to spark conversation, but you don't want people to have a conversation in your comments section, which is what the comments section is designed for. Seems a bit hypocritical, don't you think? Anyway, let's get on with it. I've obviously edited parts out of this video, because I'm not uploading an hour-long video consisting of TED Talk and my commentary, so you can go and look at the original through the link in the description if you like, but I'll give you a summary of what's going on at all times. So this guy's an Australian, who went to live with an Icelandic family when he was a teenager as part of some international exchange.
I was welcomed into the home of a beautiful Icelandic family who took me hiking and helped me get a grasp of the melodic Icelandic language.
I just want to quickly stop here to inform you that you're already being manipulated. Notice the language he's using: beautiful Icelandic family and melodic Icelandic language. So we're already on the road to Icelandic victim good, non-Icelandic man bad.
My teacher recommended I try out for the school play, just to get a bit more socially active. Turns out I didn't end up being part of the play, but through it I met Thordis. We shared a lovely teenage romance and would meet at lunchtimes to just hold hands and walk around old downtown Reykjavik. I met her welcoming family and she met my friends. We'd been in a budding relationship for a bit over a month when our school's Christmas ball was held.
Alright, prepare yourselves for some horrific overacting.
I was 16 and in love for the first time. Going together to the Christmas dance was a public confirmation of our relationship, and I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. No longer a child, but a young woman. High on my newfound maturity, I felt it was only natural to try drinking rum for the first time that night, too. That was a bad idea. I became very ill, drifting in and out of consciousness in between spasms of convulsive vomiting and...
So the information we have so far is that she got drunk on rum, became very ill, and was compulsively vomiting, as well as drifting in and out of consciousness. I'm going to let you listen to her speak for a while now, as she describes what happened. I'll explain why in a minute, just stick with me.
The security guards wanted to call me an ambulance, but Tom acted as my knight in shining armor and told them he'd take me home. It was like a fairy tale, his strong arms around me, laying me in the safety of my bed. But the gratitude that I felt towards him soon turned to horror as he proceeded to take off my clothes and get on top of me. My head had cleared up, but my body was still too weak to fight back, and the pain was blinding. I thought I'd be severed in two. In order to stay sane, I silently counted the seconds on my alarm clock. And ever since that night, I have known that there are 7,200 seconds in 2 hours. Despite limping for days and crying for weeks, this incident didn't fit my ideas about rape like I'd seen on TV. Tom wasn't an armed lunatic. He was my boyfriend. And it didn't happen in a seedy alleyway. It happened in my own bed. By the time I could identify what had happened to me as rape, he had completed his exchange program and left for Australia. So I told myself it was pointless to address what had happened, and besides, it had to have been my fault somehow. I was raised in a world where girls are taught that they get raped for a reason. Their skirt was too short, their smile was too wide, their breath smelled of alcohol. And I was guilty of all of those things, so the shame had to be mine. It took me years to realize that only one thing could have stopped me from being raped that night, and it wasn't my skirt. It wasn't my smile. It wasn't my childish trust. The only thing that could have stopped me from being raped that night is the man who raped me, had he stopped himself.
Okay, so that's a pretty convincing story, isn't it? A woman getting drunk is no excuse for anyone to take her home and have sex with her against her will. Although it is worth pointing out that if a woman gets drunk, goes and has sex with somebody willingly, and then wakes up the next morning regretting what happened, that doesn't make it rape. And you're an evil bitch if you go around saying you've been raped just out of sheer regret. Anyway, let's hear what her piece of shit rapist has to say for himself, shall we?
I have vague memories of the next day, the after effects of drinking.
Hang on. You were drunk as well? Well, she kept that quiet. Suddenly her entire story is cast under a whole different light. Now that's not to say that a rape can't occur when both parties are drunk, but her rehearsed, poorly acted routine, coupled with purposely withholding information from the audience, makes me look at her with some scepticism. In fact, why don't we delve into exactly what it is that she said during that monologue?
My head had cleared up, but my body was still too weak to fight back, and the pain was blinding.
She said her head had cleared up by this point. Well, that happened quickly, especially for someone of her size. And a minute ago she was pissed up, vomiting, and drifting in and out of consciousness. But now, what we can only assume is around an hour later, maybe even less than that, her head's cleared up and she remembers the exact details of what went on. Well, fair enough, I'll take her word for it.
But my body was still too weak to fight back. In order to stay sane, I silently counted the seconds on my alarm clock. And ever since that night, I have known that there are 7,200 seconds in 2 hours.
So her body was too weak to fight back. A little strange, but I can believe it. She is very slight, so she must have been even smaller when she was a teenager. Plus the fact that she's dehydrated from all the rum she drank. Plus the fact that the man is more likely to be stronger than her. But couldn't she just say, "No, I don't want to do this," or "Stop it, this is rape," or "I'll tell everyone you raped me if you don't stop, you'll go to prison for this"? Who are they going to believe, you or me? You couldn't say any of this, even though you were of sound mind at this point because your head's cleared up. Instead of saying any of that, you instead decided to count to 7,200 over the course of 2 hours. And the rape lasted 2 hours exactly, did it? I'm sensing some poetic license here, which I assume is for no reason other than to draw the audience into the story. That's pretty twisted.
I was raised in a world where girls are taught that they get raped for a reason. Their skirt was too short. Their smile was too wide. Their breath smelled of alcohol.
You were raised in a world where girls are raped for a reason. What world were you raised in? Now, I've never been to Iceland, but I highly doubt that a country as liberal as they are goes around teaching kids that you got raped for a reason. I don't know if I believe you here. Maybe your family taught you that, but I don't think Icelandic culture teaches that on the whole. I don't think the entirety of Western culture teaches it on the whole either.
It is important to now state that I didn't see my deed for what it was. The word rape didn't echo around my mind as it should have, and I wasn't crucifying myself with memories of the night before.
Okay, so this could mean a few things. 1, he raped her and feels terrible about it. 2, he had drunken sex with someone who had consented to it at the beginning of the night, but then realised that having sex with someone whilst they're drunk is a shitty thing to do, even if you're drunk yourself. Or 3, he had drunken sex with her, she was up for it, hence the reason it happened, and she's made this whole rape thing up. Now I choose not to believe that, but it's a perfectly possible scenario. What, a woman's never lied about rape before? Anyway, it turns out these two met in person, 16 years after this supposed rape occurred. They discussed over the space of a week everything that had gone on in their lives, and how that night had affected both of them. He feels great guilt and regret, and she feels the way you do after you've been raped. That is, it's one of the worst feelings you can feel. But there's nothing more specific that I can tell you other than that. It's pretty much 20 minutes of using a shitload of words to say something that could have been said in around about 5. They just continue the dramatisation routine and take the audience on a roller coaster of emotion to get them wrapped up in the story. Now, I appreciate I'm coming off as harsh here, but I don't have enough information to decide for myself whether this was rape or not, because these two don't present me with enough information to decide that. You telling me that you were raped isn't enough to convince me that you were raped. I wish it was, but there are liars and victim point accumulators out there who will spin anything in any way to make themselves look like a victim, sheerly for attention and sympathy. That's not to say that this woman has done that. It might be that this was a preconceived rape, and that he always had the intention of raping her. But it might also be that she said to him, after the party, "Let's have sex tonight." And with the two being in a drunken state, this guy thought of what she said and proceeded to have drunken sex with her. And because she didn't say no, he didn't perceive it as rape, because it was her idea. That's just a scenario I've dreamt up off the top of my head, and I don't know whether that's actually what went down or not. But that's the point. We don't know how this went down. There's a lot of holes in the story, and her getting up on stage and literally acting to the audience just makes me sceptical. It might just be that everything they're saying is the bona fide truth, and she's just overacting on stage to get people on side and better help spread awareness of rape and its different forms. But I don't like that tactic. I think it's dishonest and deceitful. Anyway, I have no conclusion to draw from this. I don't have enough information to do so, and I don't believe everything people tell me. Did he stay with her after the rape? Did they wake up the next morning and have a big row over it? Did he think it was a great night, but she just went along with it out of shame or embarrassment or regret? We don't know, because they didn't tell us. I'd be intrigued to hear what other people think about this, though, because it's not like I could read the comments on Ted's channel. Let me know what you think. Does this seem genuine to you? Am I just being a massive dick? Or has her story been twisted and warped over the years? I'm gonna get so much flack for this. See ya.